Thank you, Chairman Owens, and good morning. We can all agree that free speech is a constitutional right and the bedrock of our democracy. And for decades, colleges and universities have been on the front lines of protecting and advancing that right. But the majority is not apparently interested in protecting all speech. Instead, today's hearing is an example of MAGA Republicans hijacking our shared values of free speech and waging a one-sided campaign to protect conservative speech. MAGA Republicans and the far-right news media are peddling empty catchphrases like cancel culture and woke to fuel mass hysteria around an alleged conspiracy by institutions to degrade conservative free speech. This deliberately hides the real current threat to free speech on college campuses today, and that is Republican politicians' censorship of curriculum. For example, new laws in Mississippi, South Dakota, and Florida censor how public colleges can teach about racial justice. A new law in Tennessee bans public colleges from including ideas about race and sex in any seminar, training, or workshop. And a new law in Florida proposed a ban on majors and minors related to race and gender and intersectionality studies at public colleges. It also bans any initiative such as bringing a speaker to a campus related to diversity, equity, and inclusion. It is particularly rich that today the committee Republicans say they're concerned about diversity of thought and free speech when just last week House Republicans passed legislation to ban books and censor curriculum in K through 12 schools, actions that are contrary to our core democratic principles. And I'll say again, the real threat to the First Amendment is MAGA Republicans' extreme education agenda. Regrettably, as Republican leaders in red states increasingly censor free speech and learning, incidents of harassment towards marginalized student groups have also increased. In 2019, the Anti-Defamation League recorded 630 incidents of white supremacist activities on college campuses. In other words, Republican politicians are weaponizing the First Amendment to turn the clock back on our higher education system, defend only conservative speech, and undermine support for students most in need. And when marginalized students, those who are reasonably fearful about their safety and security, when these marginalized students petition their college administrators for help, they're often met with inaction. The First Amendment is not an excuse for inaction. Our schools have duties under Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which prohibits discrimination on the basis of race, color, or national origin in, quote, any program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. In fact, the Department of Education has illustrated how a college university can live up to both its requirements under the First Amendment and under Title VI, saying, and I quote, "The fact that discriminatory harassment involves speech, however, does not relieve the school of its obligation to respond if speech contributes to a hostile environment. Schools can protect students from such harassment without running afoul of students' and staff First Amendment rights. Simply put, we can uphold the Constitution while also protecting the safety of our students." And while Republican politicians waste valuable time on political theater and culture wars, Democrats are continuing to build on the victories we've achieved alongside the Biden-Harris administration to meaningfully support students and families. For example, last Congress, Democrats passed, without a single Republican vote, House or Senate, the American Rescue Plan Act, which provided institutions of higher education with dedicated funding to help students avoid hunger and homelessness and other hardships during the COVID-19 pandemic. This Congress, the committee Democrats have reintroduced the Lowering Obstacles to Achievement Now, the LOAN Act, which would help address gaps in our flawed student loan system to reduce the need for students to take out crushing student loans and support current and future borrowers. I hope my colleagues will join Democrats in addressing the real challenges facing students and families and reject the Republicans' dangerous crusade against academic freedom. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.